keep finding ways that we're helping partners finding either, balance in their life or focus or purpose.
Practices that are going to help improve your project management skills or your finances.
We're here to talk about setting long-term goals and then how to achieve them.
Increasing your quality, therefore becoming the best place in town to work. Welcome to Academy Live.
Welcome back to another episode of Academy Live. Today we are talking all about nonprofits and something that's really close to my heart. Before I joined PAC-SEAT, I worked in the nonprofit sector as part of the higher education unit. And so I really am excited to be talking all about nonprofits today. Today we'll bring on Matthew Bauer of Better World Technology. He's going to be joining us live from our studio, so we're so excited to have him. Matt is a creative and empathetic founder, communicator, and leader of organizations and teams with a focus on forging cross-sector partnerships and community using technology and digital society as a tool for improving the planet and people's lives. We'll also be hearing from Danny Garrido, one of our partners, about his work in nonprofits and Rooted Software's mission. Lots to get into. But first, before we bring on our guests, we're going to hear from Keith Marciano and Sales Pitch. So let's take it away.
Play ball. Today on Academy Live, the discussion is around nonprofits, a vertical IT market that some IT providers target, they go after. Some IT providers don't focus on any targets. They're just going after everything. It reminds me of one of my favorite baseball movies, Major League. Rookie sensation Mickey Yon on the pitch now. Mickey, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason, is in his Major League debut. Yon's into the windup for his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Ball 12, and he walks the bases loaded. Boy, how can guys lay off of pitches this close? One of the funniest baseball movies ever, Major League. So what does that have to do with sales and not having an identifiable target or an ideal prospect to go after? Well, if there's no target to hit, no strike zone, so our pitches, our marketing, our prospecting, they're all over the place. We don't have command of what is a good client, so we have a lot of sales misses. By having an ideal prospect like nonprofits, you can be more focused. So let's touch all the bases on why having a target client profile will help you find more business. 1, improve focus. Makes marketing and prospecting targeted, especially toward a specific industry. Your service and sales team know about them. The message resonates with the buyer. We know problems they have and how to solve them, so our message reflects that. 2, improve profit margins. Our service team is more efficient when we have similar clients. We put in technology that helps that industry improve their business, which reduces the noise on our service desk. Plus, retention is great as well. 3, we begin to speak their language. We understand the lines of business applications they have, how they make money, the challenges they have. So we start to speak their language, which attracts us to them, gives us and them a competitive edge. We're the subject matter expert around IT in their industry. 4, and probably most important, faster sales cycle. You'll do a better job differentiating yourself, giving you a competitive edge. You're the subject matter expert. When your sales team can easily define who they're after and the message that resonates with that prospect, they're able to be more compelling. The sales cycle goes faster by qualifying and quoting more efficiently and closing more opportunities, which that's the desired results. That's why we're here, more revenue, right? So how to choose your ideal client is a more in-depth discussion saved for a future sales pitch episode. To get you going, maybe just look at your current clients. Which of them you have the most knowledge about? Which ones you like the best? Which ones your service team like the best? Which ones are most profitable? Start finding more companies like that. You can go into Pax8 Academy portal and take the free on-demand course identifying and acquiring your first clients, or you can sign up for the instructor-led course, Selling to Your Ideal Prospect. Those are some ideas that can get you going. These will help you stop being wild, help you find the right prospects, and help you find the strike zone a little bit more.
Wow. Thank you so much, Keith. That was such a great sales pitch. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that all today. But now we have the one and only Matt Bauer. Matt, welcome to the show.
Bessie, thanks so much. It's great to be here. It's great to be here.
Would you mind doing a quick little introduction of yourself? We like to call it your humble brag. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Bessie, I grew up in Indiana, and it's a state sort of kind of in between here and in the East Coast. That very fortunate to have a school, Indiana University, that I went to, and I was standing there with my mother, and trying to decide what to do, and she said, "Well, telecommunications school, you're a good communicator. Why don't you do that?" Okay, so look, career was born essentially. So I have a weird degree, a BA in telecommunications, which there was a school of telecom and radio and TV. So it was a very creative, kind of wonderful process. And I was able to time that because the telecom market was breaking up. So I moved to Washington, D.C. soon after that. And the telecommunications industry was really blowing up there. So had a wonderful early career and sort of involved in that. And I really is it still going?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry, my screen has changed here, so my bad. So I joined my first startup in 1996. So the sort of has all a convergence to it. So in 1996, the startup and the fellow who had started that, James Kennefic, who I've been working with now for many years. My father had been an entrepreneur, and so it was great to kind of get on that train and join my first startup, and it was an incredible experience. And so we kind of went our separate ways and came back together. And James called me and he said, well, because during that time I had gotten very involved in a lot of work on the side, with children in education in Washington, D.C. at that time. And so he said, hey, Matt, you're very passionate about children education. I'm passionate about the environment. Why don't we start a telecom? And he had already gotten this going. His mother, actually, mothers again, having a factor.
Yeah.
They were sitting at their kitchen table and she said, well, James, why don't you do something good for people, for the world, essentially. And he started thinking, well, why don't we start a technology company, a telecom technology company that is all about that, which there weren't many in the world at that time, and there still aren't that many. So Better World Telecom at that time, which is now Better World Technology, was born. And so I came on soon after he founded it. And that's sort of the beginning of this sort of current arc. Out of that, I started another couple companies, one in San Francisco, one in St. Croix, around technology, around using technology for good thing. But we also were very heavily involved in the beginnings of B Corp and the B Corp movement. So we were one of the first companies, a founding B Corp, to help start that. And I was very involved in that whole process. And so after a few more startups and along the road, I'm back to Better World now Technology which for the last 10 years or so has been, a leading MSP in the country, and really, really loved so much of what was going on and how the company had stood the test of time. So that it's exciting to be back and to be partnered with Pax8, and very, very happy to be here as well today.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. And we have you every guest select a quote for the day. So let's see if we can bring that up. Are you able? Let's see. Can you see the quote of the day?
I can. Just had a pop-up that's come up here that, hold on, I have to, oh, okay.
I'll read it for you here. When all these pieces come together, not only does your work move toward greatness, but so does your life. For in the end, it is impossible to have a great life unless it is a meaningful life. And it is very difficult to have a meaningful life without meaningful work. Perhaps then you might gain that rare tranquility that comes from knowing that you've had a hand in creating something intrinsic excellence that makes a contribution. Indeed, you might even gain that deepest of all satisfactions, knowing that your short time here on this earth has been well spent and it mattered. Jim Collins, Good to Great.
Well, the reason I chose this quote, for anybody that's been lucky enough to read Good to Great, it's sort of like a little gem that sits at the end of the book there for you, and it brings it all together in this book about how to build something of intrinsic excellence and something that stands the test of time, and then combined with the work that we've been doing for the past decades in terms of social ventures, because all the ventures that I've helped co-found and operate were all social ventures, and I really felt that this quote speaks to that as well. And but it does just a company like Better World Technology that I'm very proud of now, that has, in a sort of Good to Great way, has stood the test of time and has made it past 20 years and beat all the odds, and is providing just amazing services to amazing clients, which is what we're going to talk about here as well. So it's just a quote I keep coming back to over and over again over the years.
Oh yeah, Jim Collins is one of my favorites. One of these days when I'm actually at home, we'll do What's on Rex's Shelf, and I'll pull Good to Great off and talk about why that book is so important. So
great.
Excellent. Well, that was our kind of beginning part of the show. So we're going to just dive into talking about nonprofits. I know you have some nonprofit clients, some for-profit clients, but I think the number one question that I get asked when I'll be teaching this building your MSP, like for partners just getting started with their MSP, and we'll talk about verticals. And the number one question I get asked is there any money in nonprofits? Can you share a little bit about that maybe misconception of nonprofits? Can I make any money with them? Is that a vertical that I should pursue? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, yes. Nonprofits, there are two things. One is nonprofits make up about 10% of the U.S. economy. So whatever that number it is, I don't have the current number at my fingertips, but I think that's probably a pretty good size number. And so in terms of that part of the economy, and then what separates nonprofits and for-profits is technically only about 15 lines of IRS code. So nonprofits need the services the same as for-profits do, and in some cases more so, and in different ways, and because they are also doing this societal function as well, that they're trying to do more with less, and they're trying to take this passion and this mission that they're bringing to the world, and to be able to help them do it better, faster, cheaper, to help them do it in a more operational excellence frame. That is something very powerful, and to be able to do so. There's a whole wide variety of, I think there's about 1.5 million nonprofits in the U.S. and a couple 100,000 of them are probably of pretty decent size. And if you've got dozens or hundreds or thousands or more employees, that is a considerable organization led by incredible people, every bit as much as a for-profit business.
I love that. Thank you so much for painting that picture there. You really have kind of shown us how there are so many businesses, and that's 10% is not a small amount. That is quite a
No.
bit of all the
Mhm.
businesses out there. So I really appreciate you sharing that a bit.
Yeah, I want to share, after listening to the quote, I was thinking back on my field technician career, and some of like the best moments I can remember were doing, servicing the computer systems at a couple different nonprofits, and it's sort of cool to reminisce about that, actually.
Good memory. Awesome.
Very cool. Can you share with us a little bit, Matthew, just taking you've shared a little bit about your background, but just a little bit about the type of nonprofits that you work with, what you are doing with them, how you're helping them. Just share a little bit more about that.
Well, we don't discriminate, based on a certain type.
Yeah.
When we founded the company, we had a simple premise because there wasn't such a thing as B Corp. There wasn't. We got involved with a lot of organizations at that time to sort of try and map this out and try and learn from the greats like Patagonia and others in seventh generation that have really pioneered, NUMI and others that have really pioneered kind of what a social venture looks like. And so what we've learned over the years is our ability to serve and help them run better is a huge benefit in and of itself. Because in the beginning we said, well, okay, we're going to donate 3% of our top line to causes for children, education, the environment, and then we'll figure out other ways to contribute. How do we then start upping the game there, which we did. We started to much more considerably start getting into using these tools to make good things happen. And so in terms of the types of organizations, if I think of, at least right now, it spans a national and international healthcare organization that's providing services to folks with disabilities. Another that does training, and very important training for youth around professional training and career training. And then another that is building homes for underserved and making them affordable. So when you see what these folks are doing and the amount of impact that they're having, and how can we help make that better? So you have to kind of understand that the dynamics of the organization are going to be different than a lot of for-profits that you run across. So you have to be sensitive to those, particular points that they want to that are sensitive to their mission, right? So in one case, it might be more legal focused and more around confidentiality. Any folks dealing with medicine or medical services, you have HIPAA, you have they have they're subject to a lot of healthcare industries, nonprofit as well. So that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of these huge industries that are healthcare is a great example. And there's a ton of regulations, and you have to be sensitive to those corners, and make sure that the services you're providing are compliant inside of that. And and also, I'll be honest, sticking your neck out a little bit more where it's going to make a difference in these organizations, and knowing that it does make a difference, and it allows them to focus on their mission a little bit more, because they're not worrying about trouble tickets and other than that darn printer that's not working, and that all kind of is part of the equation.
One of the assets that nonprofits seem to have that I find they don't often think enough about, like from a security, like protecting the asset perspective, is their donor base, right? They have a lot of information about their donor base, and it would be generally pretty bad for them if that was compromised.
Absolutely. It's a huge risk and opportunity to make a difference again. The cybersecurity uh, situation, obviously, every day, and this, you all plus anybody that's listening is very familiar with, so I don't need to explain that. But for that dynamic alone, you look at any nonprofit of any size, and they're going to have very significant donors. They're going to have a significant donor base, and that needs to be protected like crazy. And so and it's going to be a target. So we work diligently to make sure organizations, have the right security posture, and it might not be right at the top of their list when we first meet with them, but it's changing fast, and nonprofits are one of those areas where there's already rules and legislation coming in of having, a certain security posture is going to be mandated, I think.
Definitely. So I think you brought up quite a few things just to repeat back. So around compliance, making sure depending on what exact industry that you are aware of the compliance issues, just in general, cybersecurity awareness and protecting of data around donors. Are there any other cybersecurity compliance issues that if someone's thinking about getting into the nonprofit space or they want to work with more nonprofits that they should be considering?
I don't think it's that it's in any way wholesale different. I think it's that uh, it's just going to apply to different aspects of what they're doing day to day, that
Mm,
a for-profit business might not have that same exact setup, but they're going to have the same concerns, right?
right.
And it's just going to be in a different way. Uh, For-profits have investors. It's like donors, and
Yeah.
but a lot of for-profits don't. They have. I think that's a common element of nonprofits of any size, is that there's going to be clearly a donor base there that needs to be protected. Not all for-profit businesses have an investor base.
Right, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. I think there's and you spoke a little bit about the impact that you're able to make. Do you mind sharing about some are there any examples that come to mind or that any missions that your clients have that you would love to highlight or emphasize on the show?
Well, I mentioned a few. I will highlight another. It's a very large healthcare services provider to the poor in California that we've been working with for many years, and have been side by side as they fight the good fight every day for those who can't afford or act or have the ability to access services from, I'll call it, normal channels of healthcare, and they are providing such an incredible, and we've all, I've from when I was my first tour of duty with Better World to now, we've been out there at the locations, under the desks, getting things installed, supporting, emergencies come up, late nights, and I'll be honest, like, do we try a little bit harder when it's a organization like that we know that there's people's lives depending on it? And of course, it is. We're not I'm not saying we push harder for one versus the other, but we're always going to give it that 110% to make sure that we're able to get them either back online or get new services in place, or always be looking for, hey, how can we, what's the better mousetrap here? What's new on the technology horizon that we can implement for you? So that's another example of an organization that we love, that we're able to be part
Yeah.
of the solution there.
Yeah, I love that. I know if you heard a little bit of Keith's sales pitch, he was chatting about how when you have a target client profile, you have a particular client that you work with a lot and you can kind of use base your sales around that. Could you tell us a little bit about like what are the clients that you really look for, that you love to work with, that you maybe target as part of your sales process, or that you enjoy working with? And then how do you differentiate yourself? What kind of problems do you help them solve that speaks to them as nonprofits, if that's kind of the target?
Well, I can't say honestly that we necessarily, target a very specific uh, type of organization. We have touched and worked with really almost every size and shape and different kind of nonprofit, from community housing partnerships to healthcare providers to environmental activists to community uh, job training. And I mean, it's I could go on, and they're all going to have different, these are our priorities, these are the most important things. And what we love is coming into a situation where maybe they've been with a provider that just didn't have the capabilities to be able to, I think, bring them up to the current age of the type of services, types of software, types of tools, types of process and procedures that they could have in place. So that we take a great amount of satisfaction there, is sort of knowing that we brought somebody into a safer climate. Taking an old aging server that was maybe doing a lot of the messaging and that was premise based, that was going out of date, and bringing that up to the cloud and giving them the best security and protection. These are things a lot of us take for granted that happen every day. But for an organization like that, it has a multiplier effect, because it is one less opportunity for threat actors to come in. It's one less opportunity of a point of failure that it's not working as well. It's so you're increasing operational efficiencies, you're increasing security. So it's and then in the context of, okay, now we were training 1,000 youth a month, now we can train 1,200. I mean, how does
Yeah.
that how does that make you feel, right? It's so that's hopefully the end result, and we're doing it at a cost that is that is reasonable, and where we honestly, where we can still make money doing it and make good margins. And we are, it is, and they're okay with that, and it's fair, right? They want us to succeed, and we want them to.
Yeah, something we talk a lot about is the making sure you're charging the right amount of money. And what is the right amount of money? It's going to be different for each person, but and different for every company. But that fair amount that you were kind of referring to. Rex, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a little bit about in the nonprofit space, budget cycles. I think a lot of MSPs out there aren't real mature in the way they manage their own budgets. Yet they have to try to be in tune with the budget cycles of their clients. And nonprofits, I found, are very good at understanding their budget, planning their budget, and sticking to their budget. Can you give us any insight on what you found?
Well, it is a lot of times it's on a different cycle, right? A lot of nonprofits go off of June 30th instead of December 31st. So I don't know that I've ever really felt any differential because of that. I mean, it is, like you said, I think the level of financial management, and I'll call it, medium to large nonprofits, is every bit as sophisticated as a for-profit that's out there, and has to be, in the way of managing it down to zero, almost as close as you can get each year. And then there's obviously other uh, uh, avenues for funds to go into with a nonprofit, but the nonprofit is a nonprofit, so the goal is to uh, for the books to even out. And so, and your records are 100% public. So 990s, are on the SEC portal and for everybody to see. So, that's not a stricture of for-profits for sure. If you're a privately owned for-profit, that's unheard of, right? Oh, hey, let's put our financials out on the web and let everybody pick them apart. It's like, they better be tight, and they have to be to qualify, to get the approval from the SEC.
Yeah, I've just found in times like, when there's inflation and a lot of partners are trying to increase their rates, you can't go to a nonprofit mid-cycle and say we're raising your rates. They're like, we did not budget for that, and and things that come up out of cycle, it's like, and I also found you have to do a lot of work, kind of like knowing when their budget cycle is. If you want something in the budget for next year, you might have to be 6 months ahead of that, talking with them so that it can be put in for something you're going to do 6 months from now.
Great. Those are great points that I didn't think of. And you're spot on. So there are definitely different dynamics, and I'll be honest, it is a more typically a little more crunched environment in terms of making the margins that you need to make to run your business. Can become challenging sometimes with nonprofits, but it's doable, and we're proof of that. We set minimums of what we can do to be in business. We can't offer the level of service and excellence that we do and charge $20 a seat. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm
glad you said that.
Because
it's very much you have to charge what you need to charge to deliver the level of service that they expect.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
And I know we're going to have a quick video coming up from another one of our partners who we work with, Danny Garrido from Rooted Software, and he's going to talk also a little bit about this budget conversation and how working with nonprofits and their budgets. So I think it seems like it might be a good time for us to bring that on. So we'll come back to our conversation with Matthew in just a moment, but let's hear from another partner briefly.
Hi, my name is Danny Garrido, and I'm excited that we're talking about nonprofits today. Thank you for having me on. I want to just give you a little bit of background of who I am. I work with Rooted Software, and Rooted Software is a new managed service provider, MSP, for those who are in the industry. And we're kind of a unique company as well. We don't offer just managed services. We do also offer what is called systems consulting in the nonprofit space, and I'll give you a little bit more info on what that means. But before we do that, just more about myself. I've been in the nonprofit sector since about 2016, and I've always loved being in the nonprofit sector because there has been opportunity to go further than myself in the work that I do, which has always been a desire of mine. How can I serve, whether it's my community here immediately, my wider community, let's say El Paso County here in Colorado Springs, or even people in the United States or abroad. And so that's what really draws me to nonprofit work. And so when I got an opportunity to work with Rooted Software, which I was their third employee, I got approached by the owner who I had a relationship with, and he said, hey, we're starting a tech company. Do you want to be a part? And I said, yeah, I'd love to, especially since we're going to be serving the nonprofit world, which is what I have a heart for. So then as we started growing, we quickly gained a lot of clients. Some of the challenges that we have noticed or have run into, which is very common in the nonprofit vertical space, is budgets. You can do all you want with IT as long as you have all the budget for it. But what happens when you have a limited budget? Budgets are very strict, and you want to be able to adhere to that. But you also want to be able to move your ministry or your nonprofit in a way that keeps up with the times and also stays safe and secure in the world that we live in. What I've found to solve that is, one, the relationship I was mentioning earlier, but two is finding out when their fiscal year is. It seems like an odd question to ask. I always get kind of like why do you want to know when our fiscal year is? And it's because I want to be able to work with you in all of the either upcoming projects or everything that your business is coming through to get business needs done through technology. And how can we work things into the coming budget and not necessarily have a situation where, for example, you have a bunch of computers and you've had them for maybe 20 years. And now, this is true story, but now you have to replace them all because they are just not keeping up for your business needs. All of a sudden, buying 20 computers or 20 laptops in 2024 is very expensive. And that now you have to convince donors and you have to talk to the board, and then you have to have like a capital budget meetings about it, and it turns into this big mess. But if we can come alongside you and kind of give you here's the end of life cycle, here's how to budget for the next year with how many machines you need to recycle or how many servers you need to recycle and bring in new. We like to do things like that. And even with bigger projects, fixing your network or doing migrations from on-premise servers into the cloud, we like to be on a rolling schedule with our clients so that way they're well prepared and if there is no sticker or shock value, we get budgetary approval ahead of time, and then we plan those different projects throughout the year, which helps give them the opportunity to save costs on the back end. So that's one of the challenges that we face. And I think everyone who works with nonprofits could definitely agree in that. But as long as the relationship is open and it's two-way and you want to help be a part of the conversation versus just, hey, this is how much it's going to be. If you don't do it, then I'm sorry, I can't help you, or have fun limping along. We don't find that to be a good business practice. And one of the things that I have learned along the way, being in the nonprofit space for so long, this is totally cliche, but people don't care what you know, they care that you care. It is literally about the relationship and building that trust value with them and being a trusted partner. And so, for example, our company is fully remote, but we do take the time to go visit our different clients around the country and within the current Colorado Springs area here in Colorado. And those times aren't just to have meetings. We go in and we talk to the staff, we talk to our points of contacts. We want to build a relationship and know who they are, what their challenges are, what their hopes and dreams are. And that gives us a sense of trust. So when they come to us for advice or for help, there's already that barrier of like, well, it's not just the IT guys. We know these people and we trust these people. And therefore what they say kind of has a little bit more weight because of the trust value. So that's been one of the biggest values that I've learned is it's about the relationships. It's people first and then technology second. As I said before, everything in a nonprofit just works different. They have different regulations as far as adhering to what their donors say and how funds are donated to them. And dollars really do go a long way in nonprofit space. So if you can become an asset to them and find a way to leverage technology in a way that gives dollars back to them and lowers their overhead to fund their organization's mission, they'll give you the best value. But you have to be patient. In our industry, things need to happen now, or kind of things happen now mentality, or it's all going to burn down because of security and just best practices. But if you can be patient with them and show how the needle is moving out of the red into the orange, into the yellow, and into the green over a long period of time, it's well worth it. So it's definitely a long game with nonprofits, and it's worth the long game.
Well, thank you so much, Danny, for adding that insight and for the studios team putting it together into that video. I think we really learned a lot, and it really tied into our conversation we were just having around budgets and being aware of the budget cycle of your clients and knowing how to help them plan for the future and to help your business plan for the future and how you can help each other. So I really appreciated that. Rex, I know we're in tax season right now. We've had a whole last show about taxes. You had another question for Matthew about that. Can you share?
Yeah, so in talking with the hundreds of partners I've worked with in the coaching, like the subject of nonprofit comes up a lot, and I often say, it's totally normal for owners to have one or two kind of pet charities that are important to them that they sometimes do work for and don't bill for it. Like I said, I think that's a good thing. But is there a way that as an MSP you should be kind of getting some tax advantages for that work that you're doing? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I am definitely the last person you want for tax advice on earth. So let me begin. Let me qualify my statement of what I'm about to say with that. But I think this is a pretty sure thing. The there's a couple avenues that you can take. One is, in terms of, donating product, or obviously donating people's time, and both of those fall under in kind. And the way to recover that is to track it, and then have the organization issue a letter, or some official document that says, that we're recognizing that you made an in-kind donation of this amount, and that then you can use that, as a charitable donation, or write-off on the taxes. And so, which, we've had a combination of some of that, and then other parts we just count towards our social mission and the numbers that we need to tally up to do our B Corp certification, which we just just did. I don't know. We just completed I'm not sure how many we've done since 2006, but it's probably the 8th or 10th one. And we're still B Corp after all these years. But that's part of what goes into qualifying as a B Corp is aspects like that. How much do you donate in time and product and different things?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And just to qualify, we're not CPAs. Talk to your tax professional. But generally speaking,
do not try this at home.
Yeah, as long as you've got some income you're trying to offset, getting that letter from the nonprofit can help. Definitely.
You've mentioned being a B Corp and how that goes into it. Can you tell, just for our audience that's not as familiar, what goes into becoming a B Corp? Why would someone want to have their business become one? Just share a little bit about that.
Well, when we were 2000, back in the day, 2004 or 5, a group of companies and really smart people got together and said, well, what if we, kind of start bonding together and creating a certificate type of environment so that companies can qualify. And let's make it holistic. Let's not make it just about the environment or just about social impact or people. Let's make it about all of that and how you give back to the community. And so we were in that first class of B Corps in 2006-7, along with Seventh Generation and Method and others that were part of that first qualifying class. And what it's grown into now is thousands and thousands of organizations worldwide that are certified B Corps. And it really is, having gone through this the last certification, it's unbelievable how intense this process has gotten, and rightfully so. It really does test you whether you're committed to a lot of the principles that are involved there, which is, essentially just a series of questions, and you have to provide documentation and proof that you're doing all these things. So it's almost like a tax audit. It's like a mission audit, and it's reviewed. It goes through multiple levels. So anytime you see that little B at B Corp at the bottom of an ad or a billboard or on TV, which now it's become very much more common. Companies like Patagonia and others, public companies have become B Corps, and so it really has become a force in business, and we're proud that Better World Technology was part of that onset.
What's the difference between a B Corp and a 501c3?
A B Corp is a for-profit entity. If we're using the strict derivation there. So nonprofit 501c3 is an IRS designation that is for, you have a lot of different 501. You have C4, C6. There's a lot of, some are political, lobbying. C3 is for nonprofits that take charitable contributions, and that you have the dynamic of being able to write off that charitable contribution. A B Corp is a company, and that you can be now you can officially file as a B Corp, even in the state of Delaware and many other states, as a benefit corporation. So there's a lot of structure that's come around it now, but there is a organization called B Lab, which is headquartered in Philadelphia, which is where this emanated out of, and the original team that started it. And to get a B Corp certification, it's administered by B Lab.
Very cool. Definitely something to talk to your CPAs about.
Yeah.
And maybe your lawyers.
So the one interesting point, though, of it is that you do have to amend your charter, your bylaws, to say that we are not just about profit. We are about serving the planet and people as well. Those words have to be in your bylaws for you to be qualified as a B Corp.
Love that.
Yeah, I love that too. Do you, I feel since you're such a mission-driven organization, how is it, have you amended your mission over time, or can you share a little bit about what your values as an organization are, what your mission is, and if that's changed at all?
Well, in the beginning, again, the what James Kenefick, the founder, came up with, and was a simple formula where we would donate, a percentage of revenues to causes that were mainstream. They were not political or religious, organizations that people can get behind from either side of the aisle. And so we committed to that early on. And then with us becoming part of that B Corp first iteration, it then expanded that out. And we did things along the way where I'll give an example. One was a project that we ran with the Bainbridge Graduate Institute, where we looked at, hey, what if in 2008, 2009, real novel idea here, what if 70% of the pollution in the country comes from transportation and buildings? Why don't we just drive less and work more from home? And what impact would that have on a lot of things, both health and the environment? And the results were unbelievable. And we got, in a way, we got to see that during COVID, where LA skies cleared up and they had their first clear day in 50 years. It's like, whoa, there's no pollution anymore because we're not driving, So
I grew up in Southern California in the 70s, and I remember smog alert days, stage 3 smog alert. You're not allowed to play outside at recess.
Yeah. Wow. And that's back in the day too. So it's kind of incredible. So, how do we it looked at, we innovated how, and then we started another company that that we birthed out of Better World, called Sparrow, which was a mobile services provider, where we were using devices and service and folks out one side to help thousands of people that homeless, refugees, foster youth, etc., that needed access to the services and devices. And we had another project there where we created a cross-sector partnership that I think really is emblematic of what can happen when you get for-profit and nonprofit together, and governmental. We had MacArthur Foundation funded the project. We had Refugee Services of Texas and Notre Dame's Lab for Economic Opportunity and Lutheran Immigration Refugee Services and Sparrow, which was part of Better World. And we bonded together, and for refugees that are being settled into the U.S., we provided them phones and service with a bespoke set of apps. And then Notre Dame, we did a randomized control trial over 2 years. And lo and behold, it proved they got settled more quickly into their communities. They got higher paying jobs. All the indicators were up. They've published a paper in the Oxford Press. It was all successful, and it was the speed. Salesforce was part of that too. Tableau Foundation, and it was the speed with for-profit kind of driving that, but with the nonprofits having the relationships, and then the funders like MacArthur coming in, and Vodafone America's foundation also was part of that funding. So that was a great lesson for me, in that what happens when we all play together like that, and it's done in the right vein. The results, spoke for themselves.
That is freaking awesome. I remember we did something with the Chamber of Commerce where we had nonprofits apply for a technology makeover, and we got HP and Lenovo and a few Cisco and a few companies to sponsor the equipment for this technology makeover. And I think we tossed in a year of network management, or all the integration work in a year of network management. And we did that through the Better Business Bureau, and it was really cool. We did a local downtown theater kind of thing, so that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Hey, but we do have a question in the chat bubble, if we can bring that up, Willis. How does Better World Technology leverage AI? Any thoughts on that one?
Well, clearly the tools that we are deploying now have an AI component, such as, from endpoint protection to it's making its way into all the ends of the technology space. So that's one of the most prominent, and we really are excited about the performance and what it brings to that, and helping that, I'll call it, the kind of AI where, the human and the machine together are kind of recognizing that, because AI now can really kick off more alerts and be more sensitive to things that are going on in the environment. And then you have a SOC that can evaluate that data. And, so we call that augmented AI, which we really find in this environment is the best combination, where you have AI doing what it does. It churns and it gets more data. And then there is a human on the other side that's able to read the alerts and be able to sit there and say, okay, well, this is not an incident in this case because it's coming from there, or it is. Let's send it on down and create a ticket and start an alert. So that's one obvious way, and I don't know that that's a surprise to anyone. I think we all in the industry are seeing that
I
come
think
about.
most of our partners are still trying to figure it out, and that's definitely, like, we got to learn how to use it first, and then we can start teaching our end customers how to use it, right? So,
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
Matt, you mentioned to us that you are a radio DJ. Is there somewhere that we can listen to? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Is it a hobby? Is it a side business? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it is. I go back to my original when I started talking earlier in the show to Indiana University, which also had a school of radio and TV. That's part of the telecommunications school. It's all together. So I've always been passionate about radio. I love its origin, which back in the 1920s and 30s, it was meant to be a community asset, and it was used in communities all over the country. So I love community radio, and the one KFFR 88.3 is in Winter Park, Colorado. It's just a hour and change west of Denver, up in the mountains. And every Wednesday from 2 to 4, I host Mateo's Magic Bus, which is a show about how blues and jazz became or begat rock, soul, and funk, and kind of where they all intersect, and exploring that every Wednesday. So for 5 years, I've been hosting that show, and it's kffr.org, a wonderful community station that's got an incredible group of probably about now 50 volunteer DJs and incredible staff. It's just something I'm and it's amazing what it does for the community in Grand County, which is the largest county in Colorado by geography, but it's only got about 20,000 permanent residents. So it's a big asset for the area. So it's something I'm really love music and play music on the show, but I also play music live as well. So it's my other side, but
What
it's a
instrument?
hobby. It's a hobby, yes.
What instrument do you play? What band are you part of?
Play guitar and part of a small band, just a dynamic duo of us called Easy Forward. So it's something we've been doing for the last year, playing out about once a month, once every couple months.
Excellent. Well, we're almost at the end of our show. Is there any other piece of advice, anything that you'd like to add to for our viewers about our conversation today? Anything that we might have missed?
Well, I think from an advice standpoint, my mentor and still very close friend after all these years back when I was in my 20s said, giving back it's not a right, but a duty. And I think this is a way people can feel good about giving back. And as we say in the social venture business, you can do well and do good. And as an MSP, I think there's a great opportunity to do that. Hold on to your margins and hold on to your hat. It's definitely you have to manage it, but it's very rewarding, and you work with people that are changing the world, and making it a better place. So what's better than that?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for driving into the office. You're showing off everyone with your Paxate water bottle, and
There it is.
everyone's pretty
Wish you had one,
jealous in the office. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. I do want to give a huge shout out to Zach Horn, who is Matthew's channel account manager, or CAM, we like to say. He
Thank you, Zach.
talked. Hey, Zach. Matt talked to Zach, his CAM, saying, hey, I'm really passionate about this topic. I have something to bring. And we were able to get connected and get you on the show. So I would say thank you so much. And Matt, I hope we have you again in some kind of capacity sharing this information with our partners. Well, thanks so much. And now we're going to go to final thoughts.
So I think I have a new quote of the day. Giving back is not a right, it's a duty. So I'm gonna integrate that one into the way I live. So that is fantastic. I really appreciate Matt for giving us all those insights on how to work with nonprofits and be a for-profit partner, and that you can find so much satisfaction in helping out. Bessie, what do you think?
I agree. I'd say I feel very inspired, and there's so much good that you can do in the world. I think that hopefully our MSPs listening in can feel like, think about some aspect of your business that you could incorporate some social justice or social good into, whether that's, are you recycling computers? Are you throwing them out? What are you doing? There's a lot of different areas that you can do to help the world, and your business can help you do that. So I would say thank you again to Matthew for being on the show. And next week, I would like to just kind of close us out and say thank you so much for everyone for watching. Be sure to check us out next week as we talk to Paxate's James Levine about marketing strategy for MSPs. We are going to talk to him about the instructor-led course that he offers and give you some real insights on how you can market your MSP and how you can be successful and think like a marketer. That's what he really taught me. And so I'm excited to have him talk about that next week. Remember, we're live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, and we're on demand always. So please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Rex, want to close this out?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you to take tonight and think about how are you going to integrate nonprofits into your ideal client profile, and come back tomorrow and make it happen. Thanks, everyone.